Hi everybody. So this video is the 7 Witchy Questions by Ember HoneyRaven. Let's get right into it. Name a magical or witchy disaster, either spell gone wrong, bad product purchase, etc. Honestly, the one that comes to mind, which I don't mind talking about because it was years ago, but one that happened was a spell gone pretty bad, pretty horribly wrong. Um, it was during a summer, and I had been trying to get a summer job, and I could not get one, and I had to pay bills, and I had to pay for my car, and I could not find a job. So I was like, I was doing my best to get out there, put out resumes, ask for interviews, ask for jobs, trying my hardest, and nothing was working. So I turned to magic, and I did a spell. It was I did a spell where basically, I'm just trying to remember everything about it. I think the real fault was so desperate. I did 3 spells at once. So I did okay, it was kind of like a plaque. I took a sewing ring and I put green velvet on it, and then I glued 9 copper pennies, and I wrote on a piece of paper the exact type of job I would want, how much money I'd want to make, who I'd want to work for, what kind of job duties, and I put that in the middle. Then I made a spell candle. I took a green candle. I inscribed it with my name and prosperity and money and wealth and like money symbol, and I burned that on top of this kind of plaque thing that I had. And then I also made a kind of like a mojo bag or spell bag that I could carry with me to help with interviews. So it was a green velvet bag that I added some herbs. I think I added patchouli and peppermint and clove and cinnamon, I think. And I added a piece of paper with like wealth and prosperity on it. And I had like green aventurine, citrine, and think I think those were the only 2 crystals I had. And so I tied it up and I would carry it in my purse, and it would help the intention of it was to draw me towards we're hiring signs and interviews and being able to get my application resume out there. And I did all 3 of those at once. So I had, the mojo bag I would carry in my pocket or in my purse, and then I had the plaque with the candle that I would burn whenever I was home, candle safety. And I did that for a couple of weeks, and I got a couple of side jobs for people like lawn service, babysitting, dog sitting, that kind of stuff, and I was making some money, so it was working. And then I was given the opportunity to have a garage sale. And basically, my grandmother wanted to do a garage sale, and she wanted all her stuff to be sold along with whatever I wanted to sell. And my mom said, my mom gave me some of her stuff to sell. My grandma gave all of her stuff to me to sell, and we had the garage sale. And they said, all the proceeds go to you. You set it up, all the proceeds go straight to you. And I made like a few $100s from the garage sale. Which I was like, yes, the spell worked. I have the money now to, pay for my car payment and get gas and pay the bill that I had, and it's good, it's working. And so I think at this point the candle, it was like a chime candle, it had burned down to nothing. And I was still carrying the mojo bag with me, but I wasn't really working with the plaque anymore because I kind of felt like, it was working. I was hoping to have like an actual job, not just these side jobs. But basically, what happened was after the garage sale, like nothing was happening as far as money, and I was still trying to get a job. And okay, I'm just trying to make this a long story short. So my car broke down. It was like $300. That money just The money of the garage sale went straight to the car, breaking down, not even the car payment or gas. I had to ask my mom for money. I couldn't get a job. I ended up owing her like $200. Finally, I went back to school because I was in college, got my FAFSA money, was able to pay my mom back. And I was like, no, I'm done. And so I destroyed all of the spell stuff. And because I hadn't found, I mean, this happened in June, and then I did the spell and got the garage sale in July, and then July, August, September, nothing was working. I was trying, nothing was working. All this bad shit was happening, like lots of bills and payments. I had, my mom had to end up paying for me, and I had to pay her back. And once all I needed was a summer job. So once school came back around, I didn't need a job, and so well, I chose not to have a job. So I just, gave up at that point. But basically, that's kind of instilled almost a fear in me to do money and wealth spells because I don't want to be selfish with what I'm asking for as far as money and wealth. Because I don't want to have any, bad negative consequence happen to me because I'm being selfish. So I'm kind of iffy on doing that kind of stuff. Now, prosperity abundance is different, but I'm really iffy on doing money and wealth spells. So that would have been like really the only disaster I've had. What do you wish you were told in the beginning? Oh my gosh. This is the advice I give to everybody. I wish I was told, just do what resonates with you. Do what works for you. Do what you want to do. Now, I know that in the beginning, it can be overwhelming with the information. You can be indecisive because you have all this information, all this stuff being thrown at you, and you just want to do what everyone else is doing because it's easier instead of trying to like do things your way because you don't even know what that is when you're starting out. Basically, what I would say is that once you kind of got a foundation of what your practice is, what spirituality calls to you, once you've learned about it, studied it, and you have a foundation, I would say then look at every single part of your practice and your spirituality and really ask yourself, does, each of these things resonate with me? Is it something that I want to do? Am I just doing it because someone told me to do it? Or is it something that I actually want to do? And that's been the biggest thing to help me develop my own practice and do things the way I want to do and be true to myself. So that would be the best advice I could give is go ahead and learn and get a foundation, but then make sure that you're doing what you want to do and not just doing what someone tells you to do because you think you have to, because you don't. The one thing I've learned is that everyone's practice is completely different. We have similarities, but everyone's totally different in what they want to do. So there's not, one way to practice in this community of spiritual practices and religions. Biggest pet peeve. I guess my biggest pet peeve would be people who tell you or tell people that if you don't do something a certain way, you're not doing it right, you're wrong, it's not going to work. It's like, whatever. Just because I'm doing something a certain way doesn't mean it's not going to work for me. So the one thing I hate is people who they're just bashing people and they're like trolling and trying to bash. And they may not consider themselves to be trolls. Like honestly, I do feel there are people out there who don't think that they're being trolls, but they are. And they're bashing, they're being negative, and that's just uncalled for. You're going to break people's spirits. You're going to break people down, or you're going to make them mad. And it's just like, it's not right. There's no reason to do that because everyone's different in how they practice. And there's 1,000 ways to do something, more than 1,000 ways to do something. So just because I do something a certain way doesn't mean it will work for you. It's just the way I do things. It's what's worked for me. I'm just giving my advice, my knowledge, my experiences to you all, and it may work for you and it may not. And I advise you to do what works for you. Maybe I know I have a lot of Asian friends, and when I've talked to them about, working with money, I would use green because green is kind of the color I associate being an American. But they all say red and gold is the color they would use for their money because they associate red and gold to wealth and money. So it's, and that works for them because that's what's in their mind. It's like it's subconscious to them, and green is subconscious to me. If I used red, it wouldn't flow. My intentions would be off. My energy would be off for a money and wealth for red. Like that wouldn't work for me. So, you know, again, do what resonates with you and don't listen to the naysayers. When did you know you were gifted? I don't like using the term gifted. It makes me feel snobbish. I'm gifted. Oh, sorry, but I just feel that way. Um, when did you know you had abilities or what I call it personal powers? I call it abilities or personal powers. And if that's what you're talking about, then um, young enough. I've always had a connection with animals. I do have quite a few personal powers. I've been meaning to make a video about it. Because I don't want to come off as like being snobbish, like, oh, these are my powers, but it's just experiences that I've had um, throughout my life and looking them up and researching them. They are abilities. So I guess the first one would have to be a connection to animals and being able to talk to animals. I don't literally talk to them. I'm sorry, what I do is it's empathic. So my biggest and strongest ability is empathy. And I can empathically communicate with animals. I can pick up on their energy and their emotions. And I can talk to them, they can understand me, and then they return in kind their communication to me with their emotions and their energy. I also can sense energy, and so I can pick up mental images from energy sense, is what I call it. And yeah, but being able to communicate with animals and having like almost a kinship with, is that the right word? Whatever, you know what I mean, with animals. Um, I've always been able to have the ability. I've had, a lot of great opportunities in life to be able to be out in the wilderness, to horseback ride, to work as a zoo ambassador at a zoo. I basically was a junior zookeeper. And being able to go to zoos throughout my childhood and have pets and live on ranches and farms and um, work and volunteer at shelters. So I've had a lot of opportunity to work with animals and definitely found out that ability from a very young age. And I guess as far as other abilities, I'll probably make a video about it because there's like I think 7 or so abilities that I've had, and I'm sure I can tap into all of them again if I choose to, but most of them I have shut off because it was causing too much nothing negative, but it was just causing a lot of activity in my life that I don't have time for. But I'll talk about that in a video. Okay, so favorite witchy book. So I have already explained this. That would be Phyllis Curtis' Book of Shadows because it goes over her journey of finding witchcraft and Wicca, being a part of a group, and just her journey of that. And I really love that book. It gives a good insight into group work. It gives a good insight into different types of information you could start researching and learning about when you're starting out. And I just love reading those kind of like memoirs. It's really intriguing I love learning about other people's paths and practices and how they started out and just listening to their stories. I find that really enjoyable. Favorite witchy television show or movie? Well, not to be typical, but favorite witchy movie would be The Craft and Practical Magic. Practical Magic, I like how it was more authentic witchcraft, and I liked how Sally had her shop. But the darker side of that movie, I mean, it shows you the darker side of magic, I guess. So, yeah, it's a really, like, practical movie. The title is perfect. It is practical magic. And the craft is more fantasized in a way, but I did watch a like behind the scenes of the craft, and the writer of it purposely extensively researched witchcraft and Wicca and paganism and talked to witches and Wiccans and really tried to get a true understanding of what it was. So that's why I think a lot of people in this community associate the craft because it is authentic. It is more authentic than other movies out there. And I think it's because the writer really wanted to make it authentic as much as possible. Obviously, there's some fantastical things happening in that movie, and even though those things could happen to people, they don't happen all the time. So it was still more on the darker side again. But I like those movies. As far as TV shows, there's actually 2 shows. Charmed, of course. Now, of course, with Charmed, it was only I'm sorry, you have them there was always the first season and the third season. I think they really expanded a lot on Wicca and witchcraft and the practice. The rest of the seasons were more about the fight between good and evil and angels and demons, and it just got out of hand with demons. The other TV show I really love is The Good Witch. Now, I'm not quite sure if it's still running because I haven't seen it out. I don't know if I think it's coming back this spring. So I think April or May it's coming back. Feels like my DVR is set to record it and like it hasn't recorded anything. There's also the Good Witch movies. So there's the Good Witch movies and the Good Witch series. And it's with the main character is Cassandra Nightingale, played by, cannot remember the actress's name, but it's a really great practical magic. It really talks about the really true practical everyday life and practice of magic that a witch would do in our day and age. Like one of the things that I really liked was her I guess her stepson was having trouble with bullies at school, and he was getting just bullied, and it was affecting his grades and everything, and he didn't want to go to school. And so she gave him a piece of amethyst, and she said, carry this amethyst with you in your backpack or in your pocket and they will not harm you. And he was like, is it a special magical amethyst? Did you put like a spell on it? And she said, the magic in here is to protect you. So, take this amethyst. And so he was like, oh my gosh, in his head, he was like, she put this like witchy spell on this amethyst and made it like a protection amulet. And he was like, awesome. And so he carried it with him and he never had problems with bullies again. She didn't do anything like that. I think she explained to the father is he was like, you gave my son like a spelled stone or something. And I'm not exactly sure on the exact translation of this scene, but she says something like, all I did was give him a piece of amethyst. Amethyst is a protective stone, but all I did was give it to him. It was his intentions. It was his like viewpoint of what that stone was going to do for him that gave him the courage and confidence to stand up to the bullies. So, I mean, so basically, she never actually lied to him. She gave him the amethyst, told him it was a protective stone, and he took it and did with it what he wanted to do. And he got confidence and courage within himself, and the bullies left him alone. But she didn't do anything to the amethyst. What I thought was really cool is that, again, just working with crystal energy, just working with that amethyst energy. So, anyways, I really like that show. Have you ever doubted yourself or your craft? Yes, I think everyone does at some point. I doubted. There was like a couple of years after I had been practicing, I doubted if this was even the right path for me, like at all, because I wasn't doing it resonate with me. I was practicing the way books told me to do. I was practicing the way other people told me to practice, and I wasn't doing what resonated with me. And I had a lot of doubt about like, why am I even doing this if it's not even like what I want to do. And then I had to change myself and only do what resonated with me. And then there was another time where I had doubt in myself as far as practicing magic. Not everyone does, but I had doubts practicing magic because I had that magical disaster. And I have done spells in the past where nothing happened. Like, it never came to fruition. Like, it just, like, I don't know if the moon was void course, but nothing happened. Right, what was I doing wrong? Maybe I shouldn't even be practicing magic. And I just kind of gave up for a little bit. And then my boyfriend, again, wonderful man, he pulled me out of that depression. He was like, hey, why isn't the magic working for you? Maybe you're not doing it correctly. Maybe you're being selfish. Maybe, moon void course, just maybe there's something, there has to be a reason for why it's not working, because everyone can do magic. And I reevaluated how I was doing it and realized that there are other ways that I like performing magic and spells that work for me, and I do them now. So, magic works for me again. So I think, yes, I've doubted myself. I've doubted my craft and my abilities when things haven't gone the way I planned or haven't happened at all. Like, literally nothing happens, and you're sitting there like, nothing's happening. And it can be depressing. It can be self-defeating. And I think if you're experiencing that, just maybe take a step back, take a break from it, and come back to it refreshed with a new perspective, a fresh mind, and really look at what you're doing. And again, really see if that works for you, if that feels right to you, and try something different that might work for you, that like try something different that you're called doing and see if it works. And I'm sure you can overcome that hump, that hill, and you can get back into it and it can work for you again. So, okay, well, that's all the questions. So thanks for watching. Have a good day and a good night. Blessings. Bye.